The biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coach Bear Tourigny going to join us in just a few moments here. He is the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club. And guess what? We have some news on how many people watched that hockey game last night, the championship game. And of course, any TV ratings conversation always has to we got to get JJ involved in it because he's our TV guy. He's the one who can translate all of this for us. Now, but first, our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives. The G2G Bar is perfect for anybody who needs that quick, tasty, nutritious boost. And Trajan Wealth also bringing you this portion of the program. TRAJAN Wealth.com. That's TrajanWealth.com for all your trusted local financial needs in retirement. JJ, we were trying to figure out because the USA numbers of the first match or the first game between Canada and the U.S. in the first game of the Four Nations tournament, that equated to what I think the combined viewership was 10 million here in North America. I think what did we?
It was 4.4 in the United States, right. 11.1 million viewers in North America. So you add Canada to that. But last night, wow, these numbers are massive. 16.1 million viewers across North America. That is crazy.
Okay,
good.
Tell me where that matches up in terms of like kind of what you're used to on like a. And I'm not trying to pick on the NBA, but
that is big-time regular season college football numbers. Like a
Alabama.
It's approaching
Auburn.
An Alabama Auburn or a Ohio State Michigan.
Really?
It's getting in that range.
Oh my goodness.
That is more. That's in the range of the NCAA tournament championship games.
Really?
Remember the women's games got into like 13 or 14 million last year. The men didn't quite hit that, but that's the kind of number we're looking at here. Like March Madness, big-time college football. This is a massive number, 16.1. Here's the real kick, though. 9.3 million of those viewers were in the United States.
See, that's
we
crazy.
beat Canada. 6.8 million Canadians watched the game, and that's a lot of – when you have 40 million people in a country, and what do you – like, do the math real quick. That's 1/8 of the people that live in that country.
Yeah, they do.
Well, no, it's actually less than – it's actually –
more than that. I mean, it's like a – It's like a one.
It's
like a
1/5, 1/6
yeah.
of the entire population of a country watching a sports event. We topped Canada.
Okay, what you're saying is we beat Canada last night while they beat us.
While they beat us on the ice, we beat them in the Nielsen ratings. We'll take it. Yeah, so it's the second most watched hockey game in North America in a decade. Last year's Edmonton Oilers Florida Panthers Stanley Cup Final Game 7 drew 16.3 million viewers across North America. The championship game reached 1 out of every 4 Canadians on Sportsnet platforms.
I will say, too, you know what? I mean, we already knew this, but, you know, Boston is a hockey town. There are those places out east, right, where, I mean, you think of the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Like the East has that hockey vibe to it. You know what I mean? Like, there is a real, you know, you talk about Buffalo, you talk about like Boston. You talk about what they do. I mean, I'm shocked. You remember the Hartford Whalers? I mean, that was such
rest in peace.
That was such a classic.
Yep.
Like,
if you think of the old
sweater.
NHL, it's one of those logos and looks that you remember.
Yeah. What was that line from Mallrats? But Hartford, the whale, that's just something you don't mess with. I always love that line because that was like a classic look. But I'll tell you. I mean, think about it. Think about how far we've come just like right here in the state of Utah. How many people dipped into that game that wouldn't have even dipped into that game if the U.S. and Canada hadn't had this kind of back and forth and the U.S. had finally kind of gotten to the point where they're being competitive with Canada. I think that the Utah Hockey Club adds to all of that. That's kind of the underlying vibe here. It just adds to the energy that's already here hockey-wise.
Yeah, to give you an idea of just how many people watched that, I mentioned that was in like college football range. The broadcast topped every U.S. cable telecast from September 24 to now, except for NFL, college football, and election coverage. The most watched, I mean, that's watching a hockey game. That's a big-time deal for the NHL, for the sport of hockey. The 7-game best-on-best tournament averaged 6.5 million viewers. That's the average across all the games. That's crazy. That was 255% more than the 2016 World Cup of Hockey tournament.
I think about Brady Tkachuk, who's got to go back to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And play for the Senators. And I know, look, that's where your paycheck comes from. But like, isn't there a part of you
that's going to be a grind,
right? Isn't that part of you that kind of goes? And we kind of have this across the board, right? I mean, I'm trying to think because America's goalkeeper Hellebuck, he's Winnipeg's.
Yeah, he's the best team in the West.
And he's Winnipeg's goalkeeper, and those guys are going to be, right there. The possibility of winning the Stanley Cup is legit this year for the Jets.
100%.
And then you flip it over too. I mean, we're in a place now where the Florida Panthers are the Stanley Cup champions, and we've had the Tampa Bay Lightning.
They've won twice.
They've won
three times.
Yeah, so they're multiple Stanley Cup winning. Like we have teams in freaking Florida winning the biggest trophy in hockey, and of course we've added it here. But
they're talking about expansion in New Orleans.
Right.
Think about
they're
that.
Not. Are they really?
100%.
You play hockey.
There's a group forming in New Orleans, and they've already talked to the what's the associate commissioner, like Bill Daley?
Right. Yeah.
There was a meeting in New Orleans, and there's a group that's discussing bringing an expansion team.
Well, look, the Super Bowl is
to New Orleans.
The Super Bowl's in New Orleans like every 3 years or whatever it is, every 4 years. And
it's
obviously
an entertainment
it draws,
hub. It brings people in, and it's one of those cities that maybe the NHL has to look at. I mean, no one thought Vegas would make sense, but boom! I mean, it's a hit in Vegas.
Would they also be playing in the Smoothie King Center?
If there's room for them,
isn't that where the Pels play?
Yes.
The Smoothie King.
I think is it still called that?
Still my favorite. Well, even if it's not, it shall be forever. It's just like Delta Center here. Anytime it was something else, like we still call it Delta Center. Right?
It is still the Smoothie King Center.
It's still the Smoothie King Center. Hockey in New Orleans. That would look, nothing would shock us anymore because we have multiple Stanley Cup winning franchises down in Florida. So there you go. The game is growing. Joining us on the program right now, as he does every week, he is the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club, Coach André Tourigny. Coach, thanks for being with us. And, man, you guys must be excited to get hockey back up and going again.
Oh, yeah, we are. That would be cool. I think as much as sometimes it's good to have a little break, as much as it's good to be back at it. So I'm really happy to be back at it.
We got to get your reaction to the Four Nations tournament. Obviously a huge success and a huge hit. How much did you enjoy it, and how important is this kind of exposure for not only the NHL but for the game of hockey?
It's absolutely huge. I think you saw all the numbers across the both country in terms of follow-up and everything. I think it's huge, and I think it's great for the game. I think we want to grow the game. We want people to know our game. We know if the people are exposed to our games, they will fall in love to the game. So it's important to have that kind of exposure as much as every time we can.
Connor McDavid puts that final fourth goal in to win that thing last night. I would assume that you were watching the game. Your reaction as a native Canadian?
I said it yesterday in my media availability. If both countries play really well, they play the way they should play, they play their A game, all of them, that will be a one-shot game. Will be an overtime game or a one-goal game at the end. That's how close it is, and it's exactly what it was. And from there, it can go either way. I think Matthews had two great scoring chances. He could have closed the deal. So that showed how good is the international hockey and how tight it is as well. So I think this was a great display. It was a great showcase. Really happy for Canada, obviously. But I think that was a great show by both teams. And the four countries, actually, I think everybody gave a great show.
It's clear that Canada's going to be the team to beat as we look ahead to the Olympics a year from now, and they own the international stage. But it's pretty clear that the Americans have really closed that gap, and you see both sides of it working in the NHL. How has USA Hockey closed that gap, and how close are they to Canada?
I think people, and I say that all the time, they don't realize how close it is for years. For years. You just look at the Olympics, the last Olympics. It's an overtime goal. You know, it's in the final. It's like that. I've been fortunate to win a high number of gold medals, but I will tell you this: every time I felt it was a miracle. From the goal of Jonathan Burley, from we beat the Russia when we hit the camera of TSN on the clearing over the glass and so on and so forth. At the U18 we beat the American at the buzzer. We tied the game at the buzzer.
Right.
And we went in overtime. We beat them. So long story short, it's like that every time. And you saw in the pick one yesterday, it's really tight. If you remember Kirry Price against Kane and all the guys in the shootout, in the long shootout, that's a long time ago. That's a World Junior. So and Kirry Price and Patrick Kane are not young guys anymore. So just to tell you, for a long time, it's between Canada and U.S. and other countries, it's really, really tight. And you know what? Maybe 20 years ago, that was Canada, U.S., Russia, Sweden. Now, it's not that. Now, Germany won, Slovakia won, Finland, obviously, are one of the best countries. Switzerland are really tough to beat. So the international hockey grew a lot.
Coach, now you're back at it. Your guys are down in L.A. tomorrow, and then you come back home on Sunday to take on Vancouver. I mean, obviously, this after what is the traditional All-Star break or after this tournament, now you got to go right back at it and get these guys going and make a push playoffs or make a push to try to gain as many points and advantages. And you're as healthy as you've been all season. How does this team look going into the last third of the year?
Boy, you know, we had a really good week of practice, really happy. And the week of practice is not just because we execute or we have good practice. It's the mindset of the guys. I felt they were composed. They were serious, really focused. They're excited about what's ahead of us. We know the last stretch. We know the importance of the game this weekend. So really like where our team is at mentally right now.
Sean Durzi's back from injury starting tomorrow against the Kings. What have you missed with Sean out, and what does he bring to the table starting tomorrow?
Yeah, you know, Durzi is an energy bunny. You know, he's on and off the ice. He has a lot of energy. He's a great presence in the locker room. He's super passionate. He's super intense. When you talk about intangible, when you talk about a guy who changed the atmosphere and the spirit around the team, he has all of that. And super competitive, block shot, and he's not afraid to lay his body around. So honestly, he brings a lot. Obviously, he's an offensive defenseman, so he can make play. He has a great shot. He will help our power play. Yeah, he has a lot of attributes in that sense, but I really like what he brings as a person as well.
Your goaltenders have been pretty clutch this year. Obviously, Veggie's done a phenomenal job anytime that Connor Ingram's been injured or has been out of the lineup. What does the goaltending situation for the rest of the season look like for your club and balancing that out and making sure you get the right guy between the pipes every night and kind of making sure you get whoever's ready and in that spot ready?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. We've been fortunate. We have two great goaltenders who give us a chance every night. So I think that said, when they can be fresh, they're even better. So having two of them healthy will help us have a rotation. And at the same time, a lot of things will go in our decision. It's the momentum of one or both of them, and the opponent, the style of play of the opponent, or their past performance against certain opponents. So we will have a lot of good discussion and in order to make sure we take the right decision for the team. But we have a lot of faith in both of them. So at the same time, will be a good situation for us.
Fans are excited to see Logan Cooley back in the lineup. It's not quite ready yet, but what update can you give us on his status and how close is he to returning to the ice?
It's really day-to-day in a sense. Really day-to-day. I don't know if it's in the next few days, in the next 5 days, or whatever, so on and so forth, or a little bit longer. He practiced, but he did not feel comfortable, so he did not do a lot of contact and stuff like that. So time will tell, but he is pretty close.
Coach Bear Tourigny joins us right here every week on the radio home of the Utah Hockey Club, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Coach, have fun in L.A. and then turn it right back around, and I'm sure you'll be excited to be back at Delta Center in front of that home crowd on Sunday versus the Canucks. That's going to be a huge one, obviously.
Place is going to be rocking.
Right in front of you in the standings. So good luck, and keep those guys healthy.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
There you go.
Thanks,
Coach. Man, that's a guy who's passionate about the game, right?
Yeah.
What's tough is he's Canada's national team coach.
I know. I'm glad I didn't. He wasn't too mad at me.
No.
For the things I said about Canada yesterday.
What's cool is
I thought
what would be awesome is if he's on.
Thought things could get awkward.
Right. If he's on the bench. No, listen.
Kidding.
You pull for that guy, right? Like, I mean, when he's on the bench, as the coach of the Canadian national team, and next year when Clayton Keller's on that U.S. roster, that's going to be fun for us.
What happens 8 years from now when Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther are going head-to-head in the Olympics?
And on
or
top,
Four Nations.
And by the way, these are all the guys that are playing for Utah Hockey Club or coaching for Utah Hockey Club, right? And so that's already the connection that this club is having to the international tournaments and at the highest levels. And we talked about how. You had a couple guys playing for Team Finland. I know Olli Mata was. I can't remember who the other player was.
Valimaki.
It was Valimaki. So you had two guys playing for Finland on the Utah Hockey Club, and so it's just a matter of time before you have guys playing for every one of those countries that's going to be in this international tournament coming up next year. So it's always fun, and it's always good to have the coach. But here's what it looks like. You're going to have this game tomorrow in L.A., and then you've got a 4-game homestand for the Utah Hockey Club. The Canucks, the Blackhawks, the Wild, and New Jersey, the Devils coming to town. So those are all games that, by the way, they have beaten all of those teams at some point this year. And so, the Minnesota's really good. But when they come into your place, it's interesting to see what they can do there. I'm interested to see what a more healthy Utah Hockey Club team looks like in the next few weeks here and what they're going to put together. Yeah, when Logan Cooley comes back, and nothing can replace, it's one thing to have the non-contact jersey on and going in practice. When you have to get on the ice and kind of get back to the use of the speed of that's the thing that everybody has to adjust to. That's as coach has told us a lot. But yeah, should be a lot of fun. 4 games in a row at home for the hockey club after they play in LA tomorrow. So it's about as fun as I've never talked to you. Said, could you imagine a year ago that we'd be having this much of a discussion?
We wouldn't recognize ourselves.
Well, we'd be like, why do you know so much about hockey, man? Like, come on. Well, now, you have to, right?
I love it. This is fun.
And
Four
again,
Nations was fun. Utah Hockey Club is fun. Coach Bear is refreshing, and it's fun. Everything about this has been fun. And the team's not even right now on the right side of the playoff cut, and we're still having fun. So it's been an awesome deal to have the NHL here in Utah, and at this time to have it right now is really exciting. 4 Nations, you have the Olympics next year.
Yeah, you
could see members of this team in the Olympics. It's just really exciting and fun. It makes sense that the NHL would be in Utah, just like the commissioner said. It makes sense to be here, and it's been a hit. And I think that it's not just people here that think it's a hit. The entire league thinks it's a hit. Players around the league think it's a hit. It's been a perfect marriage.
I did a little bit more thinking yesterday about how Major League Baseball and ESPN breaking up could be really good for us here. Because I wonder if the league will just be like, hey, we got to kind of get desperate. And maybe that pushes expansion to happen a little bit more quickly.
I hope so.
Is that a reality, or do you think
I worry it's going to push it back.
Huh.
Because they have problems. We talked about the A's situation still isn't 100% resolved.
I was looking at it the other day. The A's stadium.
Neither is the Rays situation. They thought it was, but then they had a road bump because a new commission came in.
Right, and so the stadium. That's what I was going to ask you, because the stadium that they're going to have to play in. Where are they going to be playing? It's like half the. What are they doing for the? I can't remember.
Who, the A's?
No. For the
Rays?
Trop, yeah.
They're playing at the Yankees summer
that's right.
spring training facility.
Steinbrenner Stadium down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
It's
the Trop is done. They're never going to play baseball in the Trop again.
You feel bad because
it's terrible.
And the Rays organization's a good ball club.
They do things the right way.
They've never had a great fan base, or they've never had an awesome attendance.
No one's done more with less.
I know.
I feel in the last 20 years of Major League Baseball than the Rays. They've made it to a World Series. They've been competitive. They've had multiple runs in the playoffs, despite their situation.
The A's, by the way, I was looking at it too, and I was going, because remember they're going to be playing in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, they have to play in Sacramento the next couple of years. And I looked at it, and the stadium in Vegas isn't even going to be done until for 28. For 28. Right. So that's how long they're going to have to be going through that slog in Sacramento.
There's
this
still
awkward divorce,
there, and people in Vegas really aren't excited about it.
I know. Have you driven by the site
yeah.
too, as it's been torn down, the old Tropicana?
Yep.
The Trop and the Tropicana both out of commission now.
Both stadium situations
are
tied
by
together by the word Tropicana.
Tropicana, yeah.
How about that?
So when you go by there and you're like, this is a phenomenal place. If they could get a stadium here, that'd be great.
Sure.
But yeah, it's weird because it's in this place where, you can. I mean, it's prime real estate, and I think that's what the city looks at and goes, and the commission looks at and goes, that's kind of weird for us to put this baseball stadium here. It better make money. I don't know if you know how well these.
This isn't like T-Mobile Arena. You're building a baseball park,
right
there,
and when it's not necessarily attached to a casino, or you tear down a casino to be able to put it in, then people look at it from a money-making standpoint and they go, "Ooh, this is a little bit awkward." So, anyway, I've looked at this and I've wondered if that's going to be better for us as a community who wants to see. As a community who wants to see baseball show up here,
maybe
if it pushes it in that direction, because they go, look, let's expand now and let's get this thing going. Let's get some more partners that are on board from a financial standpoint.
I'm just speculating. If you're losing $500 million from ESPN and you can't match that with someone else, and you're looking for another revenue stream, does a couple expansion fees help?
I don't know.
Save the day a little bit for a moment?
It could.
Does that encourage them to push it forward? Now that I'm thinking about it in my head, does it expedite that expansion process for Major League Baseball? I don't know.
Let's go.
But
I'm just going to
assume. We're ready.
Let's assume that it does.
We have an ownership group. We got a shovel-ready site. You've already got public financing. Everything's in place. They just have to say, here's your team.
Yep.
The Utah Outlaws.
Oh, Outlaws? Come on. That's already taken by the...
By the who?
By the hockey team, right?
We know what it's going to be.
Okay. Do we?
And it's not mythical snow creature.
I love how
Mammoth's going to win.
Isn't it funny that we went?
And if you've seen the mock-ups, it's going to be glorious.
It's going to look cool.
Yeah.
It's going to look cool. The mammoth.
If they get the logo right, and I think they will, and I think you kind of have the mammoth with the mountains on the side of it, I think that'll look really cool.
If they need somebody to be a fat, hairy model to take a slap shot with, and they go, let's base it off of this. I could have been the mythical snow creature, and I could be a mammoth too.
You looking for a side hustle right
now?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Are you pitching this to SCG?
Look, I'll sell them my name, image, and likeness. Absolutely. All right. I've been mammoth my whole life. More to go around the corner. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time.
All season long and even in the off season. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Friday to you. We are down at the Doug Smith Mitsubishi in American Fork. Come down, test drive at Mitsubishi this weekend and get a great deal. JJ, you know what that rendition of John Tesh's music means. Of course, it's our Jazz Daily. And joining us as we get back into the last third of the basketball season here in the NBA. The regular season fires back up tonight. The Oklahoma City Thunder coming to town. Ben Anderson of Jake and Ben fame, and, of course, he is our Jazz insider for KSLSports.com, joining us on the program right now. Ben, what's going on, man?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. As the last 28 games of the season are staring the Jazz down the barrel here, what should fans expect out of this team over the next 28 games as they as this regular season fires up? And obviously, the Oklahoma City Thunder coming in tonight, I think as we looked at the front of the show, they're 15.5-point favorites in this one at the Delta Center. What can the Jazz fans expect in these last 28 games?
I think you're still going to get some competitive games. I don't think the Jazz are going to totally go in the tank. I know it's not in their best interest to win a bunch of games, but I think you're going to see Lowry Markkanen. I think you're going to see John Collins. I think when Colin Sexton's available, he'll play some games before the end of the year. So, as maybe we get to the last 10 or 15 games of the season, I think they'll be far less common that we see them all on the floor. And, of course, every couple of nights, I think, they'll miss games. I won't be surprised if they don't play much against Portland on Monday night. But I don't think it's going to quite be, the disaster that I think some Jazz fans have grown to expect over the next maybe month, maybe that final, 3 weeks, month of the season. It's going to get pretty sparse, but I don't know if it's going to look like that for the next couple of weeks.
We're going into this phase right now where we have either the Jazz or the Utah Hockey Club playing every night at Delta Center. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. But there's a lot of Jazz fans listening that maybe, for obvious reasons have checked out a little bit because, the team situation. But this is a great opportunity to watch this team now. If fans want to come watch a game over this stretch of home games, what are they going to be seeing now that maybe if they've been a little disconnected? What are some of the developments that could get them excited to come out and enjoy a game?
Yeah, I think watching Isaiah Collier's progression over the final month of the season or 2 months of the season, he's now moved into that starting point guard spot. I'm curious how he handles that. And I'm curious if, any of these guys hit the rookie wall. They're playing a lot of basketball, leaving for the All-Star break and then coming back so quickly. It's like starting a second college season for a lot of these guys. So it's a lot. I think some of these guys are going to get worn out and some of these guys are going to push through. So I'm curious to see who kind of separates themselves in this last month of the season. But also, you're playing against playoff teams now. You're playing against teams that are really going to take it seriously every night. I'm sure the Jazz have sneaked up on several teams so far this year. But the teams that want to make the playoffs aren't taking any games for granted over this final 28. So I'm curious to see how they play in those situations when the scouting report has been poured over, when teams are coming out and trying to start quickly against the Jazz. I'm curious how the young players react to that. And honestly, I don't know what to expect, and I think that's kind of the fun part of it.
As you see the development this year that Walker Kessler's had, I think about it, and I'm like, if you're a Jazz fan, that might be the best development of the entire season from a player's perspective. I know that Isaiah Collier's development has been, really fun to see him kind of expedited and probably ahead of schedule in that sense. But what kind of a turnaround has Walker had, and what kind of an effect is that going to have over the next, little bit for him and his stay with the Jazz and what that means for his future with this team?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You talk about the desire to find the guy for NBA teams, and it's understandable, and usually that means your best offensive player, the guy you go to late in games. But, man, it's amazing how often Walker Kessler is not just the Jazz's best player, but sometimes just feels like the best player on the floor. And I'm not going to compare him to Rudy Gobert because, Rudy Gobert is a future Hall of Famer and holds a special place in Jazz fans' hearts, but we all watched Rudy Gobert dominate games while scoring 12 points and getting 2 blocks and setting a lot of screens and grabbing 14 rebounds. And it wasn't always the most exciting basketball, but it wins a lot. And he was, arguably the best player on a team that finished with the best record in the NBA in 2021. So, finding a guy like Walker who might be your starting center for the next 5 or 6 or more years that is a one-man defensive unit and gives you a defensive identity to work with, I think is really exciting. I think that's a huge development. And so often I actually think that's kind of the missing piece and the harder part to find. Ideally, you would have found your number one scoring option right now. I don't think the Jazz have found that yet, and that's what you're hoping to get in this year's draft. But having that guy who sets a tone defensively every night that when you put the right pieces around him will allow you to have a top 12, top 10 defense in the NBA, those guys are rare. Those guys are really hard to find. And he holds his own when they go up against Victor Wembanyama. He holds his own against Chet Holmgren. He holds his own as much as anyone can against Nikola Jokic. That's a really big deal. And so finding him, Alex, I think you're right. Getting that development is underrated, probably quite underappreciated. And it's pretty huge for the Jazz's future.
It was good to hear from Ryan Smith this morning on DJ and PK right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And he talked about the rebuild, and one quote that he said is, quote, "We're hoping to do something different from Jazz history, and I love how transparent he's been. Do you believe he and Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck have done a good job expressing and articulating their vision for what they're doing right now to the fans?
To the fans, I think, is an important caveat there, because I think to us being the media, I think it's pretty clear what's going on and how they're trying to rebuild this thing. And I do think Ryan Smith has come on our airwaves specifically, guys, and said, you guys don't understand the amount of pain we're willing to go through to bring a championship to Utah. And this is it. I mean, this is what it feels like. This is the pain. So I think when he said that, it was certainly he sent the bat signal out that, like, this is coming. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be fun. But they believe they're doing it in the best interest of the franchise to win a title, not just to fall to the bottom and not win games. I don't expect that's how Ryan Smith wants his basketball team to operate, just to operate that way. I think he does do this for a purpose. So I do believe that. I know the conversations I've had with people in the Jazz organization know what they're doing, and think this is a way to add talent to the team and sort out who can play and who can't. And that's how you build a contender in today's NBA while maintaining flexibility, which I think is a big thing. So I guess on my side, I think they have. If a fan said they feel like they haven't heard enough from the front office or haven't been explained enough what's going on, I would understand that. I would. We don't hear from Danny Ainge a whole lot publicly. Justin Zanuck does, TV spots. He's been on our airwaves, including recently. Ryan Smith has done a lot of radio compared to some owners in the NBA. But still, I think fans want to have an understanding of a timeline and a plan. And while the Jazz may not be able to offer, step 1, step 2, step 3 of what that might look like, I think it can be reassuring to hear from these guys.
Jazz and Thunder tonight, coming up at a 6:30 pre and then 7:30 tip-off. This one's a big one for Oklahoma City because they're going to start up this last third of the season, and they've got much different aims and much different designs for the rest of their season, and the possibility of history being made there for that franchise. What can Jazz fans expect with this Oklahoma City team coming tonight?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to come out like gangbusters. They lost wire to wire in their last game before the All-Star break, which is the first time they've done that all season. They kind of got blown out by Minnesota, so I'm sure they've been sitting on that, and I'm sure they want to bounce back and get some victories there. And, they're in this weird spot. While they're 8 games above Denver right now for the second seed in the West, I don't think they're a team that can just rest on their laurels and coast into the playoffs. They've never won anything. They got to the second round last year, but the Jazz got to the second round a bunch of times, and I think Jazz fans will tell you that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell group didn't really accomplish much. So that's really where the Thunder are right now in that same situation. So they need to be sharp. They need to be ready to play. They need to make sure that they're clicking on all cylinders when they go into the playoffs, but also aren't exhausted and certainly aren't injured. And I think when you have a player like Chet Holmgren, you're at risk of getting hurt, and his body type just does not necessarily lend itself to long NBA minutes. So I am curious how they approach that. I do think tonight it's going to be a buzzsaw, and they're going to come out active.
You got the Jazz and the Thunder, and then Game 2 coming back from the break. It's the Jazz and the Houston Rockets. A 7-game homestand to start things off here for this Jazz team as they get going with the last 28 here. Ben Anderson, Jake and Ben, and read his byline, KSLSports.com, to get the best coverage of this Utah Jazz team. Ben, thanks for hanging out today. We appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Thanks, Ben.
Ben Anderson. I'm hopeful. And I think that's the right way to approach it. It's just like we have an understanding in the media about what fans expect something different than we do, right? But even we cannot really comprehend what a rebuild I think actually looks like long term for this team, because the problem is that you look at other franchises like the Thunder could come in and you go, why can't we do that, right? And fans will do that on a quick turnaround and be like, man, the Jazz stink right now.
Well, all you got to do is trade for a future MVP.
I know.
No big deal.
Lucky
Unbelievable
trade.
What the Thunder have done.
So, but again, like I said, even we go, well, hold on a minute. It takes a little bit more development than that. But even we are pretty but let's see this thing get going here.
Right.
And even then, there's
nobody's patient.
No,
everybody wants to win. Everybody wants this and that. And fans, media, no different, right? We all want to see results, and it's hard to be patient, but I hate to say it, patience is the right play here. And Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge, Justin Zanuck, It's the right play, but it sucks. It's not fun. And
you're doing the right thing, but I hate it. Thanks.
When Ryan Smith talked about the pain is real.
Know, totally.
And he's feeling and that organization is having to make a sacrifice right now because they're losing fans. They're losing people. They'll get them back, though, as soon as they start winning again.
Sure.
They'll get them back, and then some, because they're going to be really, really good someday.
All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll come back, and we'll put a bow on this hour with a little bit of best and worst, so stay right here. Stay tuned. More to go, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 BKSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah, Jensen. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Going to chat with Chris Smith one last time here in just a few minutes, or just a couple of moments here. JJ, best and worst. I was thinking about it. I love how – so Steinbrenner Jr. has to roll out the beard thing today.
Sad day in the Steinbrenner household.
He was talking like it was that somebody had passed away.
Oh, my gosh.
Like the beards had passed away, and then on top of it, people are like, "Why aren't you?" The New York media is like, "So are you? Is this like on purpose that you aren't committed to really spending money anymore?" Like, and then like only because they only have the third or fourth highest, salary cap.
That's nice, but what are you going to do to keep up with the Dodgers?
The Dodgers are spending $400 million. You guys are only spending $291 million. What's your problem? It's like, geez, dude, like. No, we are not trying to spend less money on purpose. They didn't win the Juan Soto race, but at some point
they rolled the dice on it.
At some point, you have to go. Yeah, I guess we're not willing to pay the $765 million for him, so you can have him. But look, I think the Yankees are going to be probably okay, so don't worry about it.
They'll look nice in their new beards.
Steinbrenner has to explain himself. What's your problem? Why didn't you spend more money? The worst is, speaking of baseball, robot umpires are getting their first Major League Baseball. I don't think that's the worst. I think that's actually a step in the right direction. I want chips in the footballs that give us the exact first down line in football. I want robots telling the umpires that was actually a strike. I don't want Angel Hernandez ruining my life anymore. I want to be able to have games where the calls are right.
Can a manager argue with a robot ump and get kicked out of a game?
Look, Sweet Lou
Don't
Piniella,
take that away from me.
Sweet Lou Piniella, may he rest. He's no longer with us, right?
What? Did you just kill Lou Piniella? It was Friday at 5:59.
Right,
you had
fine.
2 minutes left, and you killed somebody.
My guy,
you
Lou
couldn't
Piniella,
wait.
He'll come out of the dugout. He'll come out of the virtual. Lou Piniella will come out of the virtual dugout in 100 years, and he'll kick virtual dirt on the robot that's making a bad
Billy
calls.
Martin there. He's dead. Don't kill Lou Piniella. He's a national treasure.
He is, and a Mariners legend. Okay, so I love him. Chris Smith, Doug Smith, Mitsubishi here in American Park. Last time to be able to chat with you, Chris.
Yeah.
You guys do an awesome job here. I love the shop because it's a chill vibe. On top of the fact that you guys are selling really great cars that are so reliable. And, man, I'm telling you, that price, a $397 down and a true $397 a month on this Outlander that you can plug in and get 64 miles to the gallon, that is phenomenal. And, look, these cars sell themselves, so this is another plea to just to have people come down and test drive these cars for themselves.
They are, and that, we keep talking about test driving it, and if you could just come down and drive one, there's no pressure. Go take one out for a spin. We've got a nice little test drive route that we go on just to experience. There's no pressure in buying it, but just to kind of, we're trying to get the word out to come at least experience this car so people can look at them and just see how great they are and what you're getting for the money.
So I came out and did a test drive, and 2 days later I drove away with one as a new owner. So I'm just warning everybody out there.
Yeah.
You might get too good of a deal.
Just warning you.
If you're coming down, you might get too good of a deal.
It is a good deal,
Yeah.
and I've gone through it. So if you're wondering out there, you're listening, is it worth pulling the trigger, especially on a lease? Yes. This is an awesome lease deal. I did all the numbers. I did all my homework. This is an outstanding lease deal and an outstanding vehicle. and it's a PHEV, so you're getting outstanding mileage. Everything about this is outstanding.
Yeah.
Chris, thanks for hanging out with us today, man. We appreciate it.
You guys have been such a great addition to this store and,
we love
getting it going, and I love it when people come and say,
Absolutely.
I heard you on the radio, and I thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris,
Thanks
and
to our
thanks for the
listeners.
folks at Doug Smith Mitsubishi. American Fork, Main Street exit. Come down, test drive one today. It is 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.